Hi, and welcome back to One More Chapter with Emily. We've started The Interpreter by Brooke Robinson. It's a novel that follows the story of Ravel Lee, an interpreter in London who is trying to adopt a little 6-year-old boy named Elliot out of foster care. If you haven't been with us since the beginning, I recommend that you go back through my channel and listen to the previous videos that have the same image and catch up with us. If you're all caught up, then grab some coffee, settle in, and get ready for Chapter 8 of The Interpreter by Brooke Robinson. It might be a shipping terminal at midnight if I'm working for the drug squad, a windswept rest stop near Dover if I'm interviewing truck drivers for immigration, but this is the first time in over 8 years of interpreting where I've had an excursion to a nail salon. A neighbor called the Modern Slavery Helpline with concerns about the salon's employees, and the National Crime Agency prodded a detective from the local station to check it out. We enter the shop, and the police officer tells me this is an unannounced visit. When the owner appears, I can't shake the feeling that he knew we were coming. The neighbor's concerns could be real. Cheap nail bars and car washes are the businesses of choice for today's slave owners. Or they could be racist, disgruntled from their recent shellac polish. That happens too. The business owner leads the detective into a back room, and I follow. Umbrellas hang on hooks with 2 woolly scarves, and a pair of wellies rest on the floor. On the table is the remains of bubble tea and reheated meals, noodles and pearly red rice. The owner claims this is the staff room, the space his nail technicians use for their lunch. The officer is supposed to be wondering whether or not this is actually the kitchen and these women are forced to live upstairs, trapped at a job that they didn't choose. To me, the umbrellas look unused. The scarves look like they could have been left behind by distracted customers. Topped off by the wellies, I think the whole scene is trying a little too hard to echo the one thing these women are allegedly not allowed to do: go outside. But I'm not the one doing the investigating. The officer is hanging back in the lunchroom, asking the owner questions in English about his business security, name-checking recent burglaries in the area, trying not to spook the horse. The man insists on speaking to the detective in English, and so there's really no need for me to be there. I walk into the main room of the nail salon and smile at the woman seated by the door. "Choose your color," she says in Spanish. A blue face mask grazes her throat. "No, I'm not here for..." My fingers brush against a bottle of gleaming silver nail polish as I switch to her language. "The police officer is here to speak to your boss. I'm just the interpreter." Worry flickers across her face. "But it seems he doesn't need me. Your boss speaks English." I don't want to talk to the police. She gestures for me to lift my hand and examines my masticated nails. "You should get acrylics. It would stop you from biting them." "How much is a full set?" I ask. £15. "And how long does it take?" "1 hour." "Only £15? It's a good price." Somehow the business owner pays rent on this shop front, electricity, taxes, other expenses, staff wages, all covered by charging 15 quid an hour for their service. "How much of that do you keep?" I ask. What do I think I'm doing? "I earn tips as well." That wasn't my question. I'm not the one investigating this situation, I remind myself. Besides, I want this job to be over as quickly as possible so I can go home. Elliot's social worker is coming to our flat this afternoon, and I need time to prepare. That's what I should be focusing on. For you, shellac would be nice. Round shape, square edges. I bite my tongue to stop myself from asking further questions. I speak for other people, not for myself. While on the job, I shouldn't even be uttering a single word that isn't fed to me by someone else. This woman could be like Sandra, tolerating the situation for a few years. She knows it isn't great, but she's taking what work she can get, sending money back home where her family, her real life is. Or maybe she doesn't get a choice. "What's your weekly wage?" I check to make sure her boss is still occupied in the lunchroom. "How much are you paid?" "I earn £12 an hour." She turns away from me. It's never the truth when they can't look you in the eye. Then the salon owner emerges from the kitchen with the officer close behind. "Are you sure you're okay here?" I whisper before the man is within earshot. As if on cue, a blonde woman enters the shop and the nail technician launches into "Choose your color," pointing at the shades on offer. I don't get an answer. "We'll be off then," the detective says to me. I follow him out. We pause in front of a vape shop next door. "Sorry that was a waste of your time." "Don't you want to speak to the woman? I can interpret for you." He shakes his head. She's hardly going to say anything in front of the boss. He gave me some garbage about the safe he uses out the back. Claims he prefers customers to pay with card. Much to his annoyance, most insist on cash. Never mind the cash-only sign in the window. I couldn't see any hard evidence for slavery, but it's probably happening. He scratches the tip of his nose. What did you talk to her about? I asked her what she earns per hour. Well, what did she say? She said, if I give him a figure below minimum wage, 4 or 5 pounds, he might go back inside and try to speak with her. If I tell him the working conditions are illegal, the police will have to investigate further. But I don't. She's paid £12 an hour. Bollocks? I don't know. If I get this wrong, I could be making things worse for that woman. If the police investigate, the owner could probably assume she said something to me, and if they still don't find adequate evidence to shut down the business, she wouldn't be rescued, and he'll be free to punish her for speaking out. I don't want to be responsible for someone coming to harm. Never again. Sorry I didn't get anything useful, I say. You know what the NCA of National Crime Agency really stands for, don't you? No? Never catch anyone. He chuckles as though it's an open secret how ineffectual they are. If that is true, are NCA officers all right with that? Content to follow procedure, throw up their hands at the end of the day and go home? That has to be the real skill, the rare quality for a long career. You can probably test for it, put it in one of the psychological entrance exams. Plenty of people can become trained investigators, but I bet fewer can block out their frustrations case after case. And they don't want officers in their ranks who are vulnerable to that feeling, because that's when you do something stupid. I won't do anything stupid, I tell myself once more. On the bus ride home, I search the news for updates on Sandra. The murder was 3 days ago now, and the heiress has not been arrested. A BBC story says she is not considered a suspect. The crime is still described as a robbery gone wrong. On my phone, I watch a short CCTV video clip released by the police. The grayscale camera is positioned outside the Knightsbridge house. It pans across the rear garden and covers the back door, leading to the kitchen where Sandra was found. On the screen, Sandra emerges from the house and deposits 3 wine bottles into the recycling. She goes back inside, closing the door. Why would she do that? Her hands were full with 3 bottles. Perhaps she had more garbage inside and was planning to make another trip to the trash. But a few seconds later, a shadow passes in the garden and I gasp. It's a person looming at the edge of the video frame. The picture isn't clear, but it's almost certainly a man. It isn't the heiress. Then the video cuts and we don't see the person go inside, but someone was there. I press play on the clip again. I know Sandra is already dead, but I want to scream out to her to close that door. Don't take a chance and leave it open, not even for a second. I want to shout for her to turn around, to see them coming. That could have made all the difference if she knew. She could have called for help or run. The heiress upstairs, music piping through her headphones, the rest of the world blocked out. How blissful for her. I'm being unfair. The heiress might be sick with guilt. She didn't care about her victims in the parking lot, but maybe this is different. A violent murder, her own staff, in her own home. If she is, her remorse is useless. The most pointless of emotions, it helps no one, not the person wronged or the person who's guilty. It's futile, but you feel it anyway. The bus slows to turn a corner and I chew my thumbnail until it bleeds. I quickly exhaust the news stories about Sandra that I haven't already seen. Journalists have lost interest in the case that first day she was killed. Not the right victim, too foreign, too poor, not titillating enough. Even Elliot hasn't asked about Sandra. I'm not going to tell him the truth. If he does mention her, I'll say she's gone back to the Philippines to be with her daughter. I don't want to lie to him. I'd rather not have the conversation at all, but I can't help feeling sad that he hasn't asked. The social worker is due in an hour. Elliot is at school, and Lydia is coming around to discuss procedures for finalizing his adoption. Elliot has been with me for over 13 weeks now, which means enough time has lapsed for us to apply to the court for his legal adoption order. Under the tap, I wash the dried blood from my thumb. Maybe I should have lied this morning and told the detective the nail technician said she needed help. Sometimes a lie can be purer than the truth. I've lied to Lydia. I've omitted certain facts about myself, obscured things, and let her make her own assumptions, but I've never told what I would describe as an unforgivable, terrible untruth. For her first visit, I prepared every inch of the flat. I sliced celery sticks and dripped the contents of an almond butter jar onto a serving dish. Then I swirled it messily around the plate, snapped some of the celery sticks in half, bit the tops off of others, before returning them to the dish. I placed a small glass of orange juice on the rug, plastic, unbreakable, half drunk by me. After arranging 2 cups on the countertop with the apparent remnants of tea, I ran coral lip gloss over my mouth and kissed the rims. Lydia rang the bell that day last year at exactly 12 o'clock. I had perused all the parenting subreddits, threads on Mumsnet, forums on fostering and childcare. I knew that social service workers are commonly referred to in Britain as the SS, and yet I made a rookie error, a joke about Lydia's German punctuality. Sorry, I said. I have all things German on the brain. I'm supposed to be making gingerbread this afternoon, but I've run out of brown sugar, practicing for Christmas. Too much? I would have thought so, as it was only October, but she smiled and sank into my sofa. Sorry about the toys. I pretended to fuss over a train and plush seal lying on the rug. Had I remembered to peel the price tag from the wheels? My colleague and her son were visiting earlier. A harmless lie. I haven't had a chance to clean up. Don't apologize, she said. This isn't a house inspection. I had smeared a finger of strawberry jam across the front of the seal to mute the appearance of its just-bought white fur. How old is your friend's son? 3.5. The median age of children adopted in England. His name is Harley. Nice name. I like that, she said. Do you see them often? A neat segue, probing my experience with children. I couldn't fake the existence of nieces or nephews, but evidence of entertaining a colleague's child was easy enough to create. As often as we can get together, a chunk of hair went over my shoulder in a carefree toss. Every couple of months, I like to think of myself as his unofficial godmother. I'm not sure if godparents are declared only at baptisms and at the time of birth, or if older children can have one appointed too. Not that I have anyone for Elliot. Doreen would have been his godmother, even though she's not religious either. It would have been a nice gesture for them both, since it was she who first gave me the idea to adopt, although I only realized this fairly recently, after my mother died. Are you religious? Lydia asked. Topic successfully moved on from the fictional child. That Harley godmother line, deflect follow-up questions. Tell the truth in a way that leaves a false impression. So many little lies to get Elliot to be mine. I only did exactly what needed to be done. Well, I suppose I'm agnostic. I wouldn't push a particular religion onto a child. I hope they'd be open to exploring what's out there, in their own time. Lydia nodded and made a note in her folder. The next preparation group is on religion and culture, she said. Would you consider adopting a child from a different religious or cultural group? I would, absolutely. That was the truth. Have you ever lived with a partner, Ravel? Only at university. My boyfriend at the time moved into my house share when we needed someone else to help with the bills. I had been accepted to be assessed by my local authority as a potential parent for a child in care. She was here for the first of numerous home visits to determine my suitability as a mother. It was okay to be single. The agency didn't rule you out if you rented instead of owned your own home. But they were notoriously choosy, and I was aware that on paper I wasn't the most stellar candidate who'd ever filled out their form. Your flat is lovely, Lydia said. I would want it to be. I was paying £2,500 a month for it, which was more than I was earning. I'd moved in just before applying to be assessed, traded in my Catford studio for a 2-bedroom on Finchley Road. Great schools in this area, I said. I'm sure. Can I give you the tour? Yes, please. I guided her through the flat. Lingering on the bright feature wall, I'd asked the landlord for permission to paint. The second bedroom was essentially bare. I'd hung soft curtains and placed a row of cacti in the windowsill of the otherwise empty room, crafting an impression of space in my life, both literal and metaphorical. Good-sized bedrooms for London. How much time is left on your lease? This was something I knew she would check. 9 months, though there's no reason the landlord wouldn't renew. I plan to live here long term. I was already in the hole, £3,000 for the rent, diverted to a credit card registered to my mother's address in Singapore so it wouldn't flag in the credit check I assumed Lydia would do. She consulted her folder again. Your mother lives abroad? She was fishing for information about my support network. That's right. I neglected to tell her that my mother had just died. And you're an only child? I told Lydia before that I didn't know who my biological father was, which was true. What I left out was that my mother always refused to discuss his identity. I assume he was a colleague or fellow PhD student, but I'm only guessing. I do know I was a mistake. Yes, only child, because my mother had to use a sperm bank overseas to have me after years of uncomfortable, heartbreaking fertility treatments. She wasn't going to go through that more than once. I hoped it didn't sound too rehearsed. Lydia nodded in sympathy. She really wanted you. My adopted child was going to feel wanted. I'd make sure of that. I vowed one day to tell them all of this. We'd laugh at the story of the crazy lengths I went to in order to be approved. Mom always said having plenty of friends is better anyway. Good friends are the family you've chosen, I said. Tell the truth in a way that's misleading. I had no real friends, but I didn't claim to. Lydia made another note, then picked a ball of lint from her trousers. Would you like to see the communal garden downstairs? Last week I planted broad beans. I visualized the boxes and ticked them. Nurturing, resourceful, practical, I led her to the ground floor, taking the route that would have us walk past my organic vegetables freshly delivered. Mind the step, I said, to make sure she clocked the well-labeled box. She saw it. Social workers are trained to notice everything. Now I have 10 more minutes until Lydia will arrive, and when she does, I'm worried she'll see the filthy state of Elliot's dragon toy. I could hide it in a cupboard, but she might ask about it, seeing as it has been a real crutch for him. For the first time this week, Elliot has started leaving it at home while he's at school. He's been teased about it and is now embarrassed to be seen with it in front of the other children. The moment he gets home from school, he rushes to it and makes me promise not to touch it while he's out. He'd notice if I washed it and would be upset with me, but this feels like a weak explanation if Lydia sees it. I decide on a compromise. I'll spot clean the worst of the stains so it won't look like such a health hazard and hope Elliot doesn't notice. Another parenting first. I've never cleaned a toy before. I go back to my Toronto mummy blog, but she does not offer any suggestions. I can't tell what the fabric is, and if I spray a stain remover and bleach the color, then Elliot will really be angry. On the base of the dragon is a black label. No laundry instructions, but it says the name Kyoshi and an 8-digit number. I type Kyoshi into my laptop and land on a website in Japanese. Google Translate claims it's a toy company in Kyoto. I scroll down the home page, but don't see any toys that resemble Elliot's. I search again for Kyoshi with the 8-digit number. It isn't a barcode, it's a serial number. Up pop suggestions for eBay and Alibaba. There it is. Elliot's Draggy is some kind of collectible designer toy. It's worth 600 pounds. That can't be right. Japanese is a language I know relatively little about, so it's possible Kyoshi is a common word with multiple meanings. I keep searching. I scan through other Japanese websites and instead of using Google Translate, plug the words into a Japanese-English dictionary. I'm running out of time before Lydia's arrival, but I can't tear myself away. I check every inch of the toy. Then I zoom in on the image on screen, looking for differences between the two. There are none. This is definitely the same toy. I've been assuming his birth parents gave it to him, explaining why he clings to it so fiercely. So someone wealthy donated this dragon to a charity shop, and Elliot's birth mother or father paid £1 for it, having no idea of its provenance. The shop's staff clueless as to its worth. It happens. You hear of people paying a tiny sum for an artwork or a teapot at a garage sale, and it turns out to be a valuable, original, or genuine antique. That's most likely what happened. Otherwise, who would have given him such an expensive toy? Chapter 9. I leave the toy for now and do a final quick tidy of Elliot's room. Still pride of the place on the closet door is the cartoon Sandra drew for him. She really captured his lopsided smile, the slight to the left head tilt he does when he's being cheeky. Elliot loves it, and he's been practicing his drawing every day since they met at the Old Bailey. There must be a class I can take him to during the half-term break, a kids program at the Tate or one of the other galleries. Who taught Sandra to draw so well? Maybe she had plans for art school in the Philippines, a different career. She may have had hopes to teach her own daughter how to draw when she returned. I can't stop thinking about her now. And why haven't the police contacted me as part of their investigation? They would have access to her phone and the Silver Balloon app. Presumably they can see that she watched Elliot for me. I suppose if it's a robbery gone wrong, they must have decided there is no connection to her casual acquaintances. I think about contacting the police until I remind myself that would be stupid and merely wasting their valuable time. I have nothing to offer them. The reality is, I hardly knew her. Back in the living room, I do another sweep of the flat. The outside buzzer sounds. It's bound to be Lydia. I'm lightheaded and place a hand on the wall for balance. Lydia says Elliot's adoption is as good as certain, but I don't share her optimism. Things can still go wrong. Things can always go wrong. And if I don't get to keep him, my calendar is now color-coded with events and reminders for Elliot's school. Green for his medical appointments and social worker visits. Blue for football training sessions. Purple for school holidays blocked out. Days bookmarked for museum visits and trips to pick-your-own-fruit farms in Surrey. Police and court interpreting work is mostly last moment, 24 hours notice if you're lucky. Before Elliot, I lived one day at a time, the future week after week of empty white space. I open the door and let Lydia inside. Have you eaten, I ask, as she drops onto my dining room chair. I have a lunch meeting after this, but some water would be lovely. I fill 2 glasses from the tap, my best glasses. Add ice and a lemon, all the trimmings. So, how are things, Ravel? I want to ask her if there's a chance Elliot is from money. I would have guessed most children taken into care come from relative poverty. A background of financial struggle coupled with factors such as severe mental illness, addiction, abuse. That's my own bias, I suppose. Wealth doesn't preclude you from any of those things. I don't expect social services remove many children from privileged homes, but it must occasionally happen, and I'd hope the rich aren't exempt from scrutiny. Yes, good. Yes, it's been wonderful, really. Lydia places her water glass on the table and casts her eyes around the room. Her gaze lingers at the entrance to Elliot's bedroom. She's waiting for an invitation. Would you like to see how his room is looking? Great, she says, already on her feet. The window is the first thing you see when you enter Elliot's room. Ah, his coin collection. Lydia gestures towards the money lined up along the window. I remember them from his room in Greenwich. He's had a few new additions lately. It's cute, a very quaint, old-fashioned hobby. She turns slowly, taking in the details of my son's bedroom. The dragon toy is perched on the edge of the bed. Her eyes move over it, but she doesn't say anything. It's so much more filthy since the last time she saw it. It's possible at first glance she hasn't even recognized it. He's still taking that dragon toy with him everywhere he goes, except to school now, to avoid teasing from the other children, I say. The one from his birth parents? I guess that's where it's from. Unless Lydia volunteers the information about the family's wealth, I can't come right out and ask her. The last thing I want as we settle the adoption is for her to think I'm after Elliot's inheritance. It looks as though it hasn't been washed in years. He won't let me take it even for a couple of hours. I have to promise not to touch it while he's at school, I laugh. He'll grow out of it. She heads back to the living room and I follow. Has Elliot always had it with him? Since you've known him, I ask. I think so, yes, as far as I remember. I wouldn't let it worry you. I'm not worried. I give another second to offer up something more. Nothing. I need to change the subject so she doesn't think I'm oddly preoccupied with a simple toy. So, he's been well? You're getting along? I should tell her about Elliot's tantrum the other week when Sandra went to leave. Up and down behavior is to be expected of all children his age, regardless of whether or not their background has been stable. He had one little, quite weird meltdown recently, but nothing of note and nothing I wasn't prepared for. I won't mention the tablet shattering against the wall inches from my head. Good, Lydia says, nose in her folder. And school? The gardening day fish incident blew over, and she clearly wasn't informed by the school, or else she would have mentioned it before today. Technically, I should probably tell her, but Elliot didn't do anything, so why would I report a false accusation? I don't want Lydia thinking I can't handle even minor challenging situations. Fine. He's happy to go each day. He does his homework, I say. And you said there was some teasing? I'm keeping an eye on it. I think it's under control. She nods. He's 4'2" now. I measured him yesterday. Tall for his age. He'll tower over me by 14, 15 at this rate. Elliot, a teenager. My teenager. I've been taking each stage of the process as it comes, not allowing myself to fully picture him as fully grown up with me. And you're okay, yourself? For a moment, she seems to look right through me, and I feel myself shrivel from the attention. Completely. I'm good. Is that another new language, or are you doing a refresher course? Lydia is looking at my Mandarin language book splayed on the dining room table. I've been attempting to learn Chinese Mandarin for over a year, still stuck on introductory pinyin. Just leafing through the book for interest. I don't speak Mandarin. Maybe I'll take it up when I retire. Perhaps I've reached my capacity for languages. They can be difficult to acquire, but equally hard to forget. If only Chinese characters could override the German language in my memory, draw straight over the top. transforming it with a scribble, the way a short curve of ink can change a 6 to an 8. Well, this is only a brief visit to see how you're getting on, Lydia says. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss? I don't think so. No. I pack up the Mandarin textbook. Then I take a seat across from her. You seem nervous today. I admit, I am wondering where things are at with the legal process. A mouthful of the water makes me shiver. I haven't had an update in a while. Don't worry. Remember, this stage of the process is really about the birth parents and social services presenting their case in court. It's between us and them. All you need to do is concentrate on looking after Elliot. You're expecting the birth parents to contest the adoption? Based on my past interactions with the birth parents, it's not a good idea for you and Elliot to be there at the first court hearing. She's being diplomatic. Is there any chance the judge will... I can't finish the sentence. The word's unendurable. No, Lydia says quickly. I shouldn't say that. Theoretically, there's always a chance. The parents would have to show that there has been a significant change in their circumstances since Elliot was removed from their care. I'm confident everything will go smoothly. Okay, I exhale. Thank you. I'm reassured by this. There's nothing Pollyanna-ish about Lydia. In fact, you probably won't need to attend any of the court hearings. The legal process will carry on in the background. The solicitors will do their thing. The family court will notify you of hearings in the mail, and I'll update you as often as I can. Thank you. In the event the judge decides you do need to attend court, your identity is protected, and there are procedures to make sure you don't cross paths with the birth family on the day. That's a relief. Well, her eyes lift to mine. That's all. It's over. I've passed. I'm almost there. Do you have any questions? I want to walk her out of here before she changes her mind. I go to speak when there's a knock at the front door. Ignore that. I'm not expecting anyone. It must be a courier with a package for one of my neighbors, I say, even though I know a courier couldn't get past the building's external security door. You have the information I gave you before about the timeline for getting Elliot's new birth certificate? Passport if he needs one? Yes, I say, though Lydia doesn't hear me over the pounding at my door. You better get that. I move quickly. Whoever it is, I'll get rid of them and focus on wrapping this up with the social worker. On the other side of my door is a man in his early 20s, all bug-eyed and shaven head. Can I help you, I say? Ravel? Ravel Lee? Yes? I tried to sound bright and polite in front of Lydia, but already have a bad feeling about this. Your man sent me with your white key. I'm sorry? He pulls a bag from his pocket. Your delivery, he says. He holds a clear bag of white powder up to my face. What is that? Your white chalk from your man. His voice is exasperated. I don't know what you're talking about. Behind me, I hear the sofa groan. Lydia has stood up. You have the wrong flat. You said you were Ravel Lee. Lydia approaches from behind. Yes, but whatever you have there is not mine. My trembling hand finds the handle and I slam the door. Oh my God, I say to Lydia, my words running together. Who was that? How did he get my name? Are you sure you don't know him? She walks back to her seat. No. My God, Lydia, I don't do drugs of any kind. I don't even smoke. I've never smoked. No one ever comes to the door here. It's a very safe area. I've never seen him before. I'm sure of it. She listens and manipulates a gold dome earring in her lobe. I stay standing and grip the back of the chair, my boy's jumper draped over their cushion. I hope he's still my boy after this. The arms of the clothing twist in my hands. Think. What I say next is crucial. It feels as though everything is riding on this moment. I need to be very careful with how I choose my words now. Everything I've done, all the planning to get Elliot, could unravel in this moment. Should I call the police? Yes, I think I'm going to call the police. Ravel, wait, I need to ask you again. Do you know that man? Do you use the services of a drug dealer? No! I have security clearances with the Metropolitan Police. You know this. Her eyebrows rise. I'm cleared to interpret on terrorism trials, on drug smuggling cases. I've been thoroughly vetted by police and other government agencies. I have no idea who that man was or why he had my name. Do you recall that there are issues of substance abuse in Elliot's background? His birth parents, I blurt. Could this have been them? That man sent by them? Why would they do that? I don't know. You said they want to contest the adoption. A sound from Lydia that's almost a scoff. First of all, his birth parents do not know either your identity or your whereabouts. Second, if you say this has never happened before, what would be the chances of that man coming to your door when I've been here to witness it? She's right. The odds are astronomical. I am being paranoid. I sound unhinged. For the shortest second, I consider laughing, attempting to backtrack and pretend the comment was a joke. I decide that could backfire and make it seem as though I'm not taking this seriously. It wasn't Elliot's parents. That's impossible. There's a silence between us, stiff and agonizing. I need some more water. Can I fill you up? I clap my hands together, hoping the sound will scare the awkwardness away. Don't lose your composure, I tell myself. She's watching me. It's Lydia's job to assess my behavior, watch my every move. As I walk to the kitchen, I know I'm trying too hard to do so normally, now conscious of every muscle movement, which should be natural. I must look like a robot without knee joints. I'm fine, thanks, Ravel. Is she going to cancel the first directions hearing? Can she do that? She's probably obliged to submit a report, and this is obviously a major red flag. Elliot will be placed with another foster family who will also want to adopt him, and he'll be gone, as though he were never mine. Stop. I must stay cool and not make this any worse. I'd say he got your name from some mail sticking out from under your door, Lydia says finally. There's a scam going around where people knock on your door and ask if you need any gardening work done. They hand you a business card for their landscaping business, that kind of thing. It's an excuse to assess the contents of your house, scoping you out for future robbery. You're in a flat here and don't have your own garden, so maybe they're pretending it's drugs instead? She shrugs. Yes, maybe that's what happened with Sandra. Someone watched the Knightsbridge house. As a domestic worker, she probably has a predictable schedule where she cooks, takes the garbage out, does the same task at the same time each day. Her killer could have been watching and noticed a glitch in her routine, her habit of leaving the door open between trips to the garbage, and they made a plan to pounce. The shadow person on the CCTV. In those extremely wealthy areas, you wouldn't knock on the front door pretending to canvass for gardening work, and certainly not drugs. You'd go around the back and target the staff. I release a steady stream of breath. The man was checking my suitability for robbery, and Lydia believes me. You think so? That makes sense. That must be it, I say. Although it doesn't entirely make sense. A robber posing as a gardener, yes, but not a drug dealer. If you were a burglar, you wouldn't want to put your future victim on alert. You wouldn't risk them calling the police and reporting an interaction with a local criminal before you had the chance to rob them. But if Lydia believes it, I'm not going to contradict her. Keep your door and windows locked. Maybe have a word with your neighbors, she says. I'll do that. Lydia's eyes study me for another long second before she leaves. Don't even blink, I instruct myself. Don't give anything away. When the door seals behind her, I slump against it, her empty water glass digging into my palm. It hurts. Sensation is returning to my limbs. The air in here is not quite what it was before. The next part is in italics, so it's the same person from the prologue and previous other areas in the book. You could walk around here with a gun and nobody would notice. I know it seems like a normal high-density part of London, but Mayfair is actually very quiet. Houses appear as though they're flush up against each other, my living room and yours sharing a well-lacquered wall, but we all have our privacy, I assure you. Many of the owners live abroad, running multinational companies in countries, and so their properties are empty for most of the year. It's estimated that during the cooler months, some residential Mayfair streets are up to 80% vacant, the only warm bodies a security guard or a domestic worker dispatched to sweep the leaves. At night, I like to oversee the row of houses opposite, behind each window, a frozen scene of empty chairs and tables, a world fled. I zoom in on the children's bedrooms, the scene evacuated, tiny playthings abandoned. Did they leave for their summer house, or did they run in the middle of the night in fear? Could someone, another observer, have plucked this family from their perfect life? With my eyes, I move the furniture from room to room as I imagine their fate. My private dollhouse world where I'm the only toy. Of course, your house is my real target, but these neighbors make for good practice. My sister hasn't even asked. She assumes I'll allow her to live with me. I suppose it's in my interests because I want her where I can see her too. I'm putting her in the bedroom with the smallest window, the view marred by the next door's new extension. There is visible dust on the windowsill, and the mirrored closet doors need attending to, but I'm a maid short this week and I do not clean. Rita has worked for me for almost 2 years, and so I suggest she brings her daughter to the house to say hello. I had to insist several times before she eventually brought the girl around one day after school. You finish cleaning upstairs, I told Rita, and I'll take her to the park to feed the ducks. After the park, we went to Harrods. I had the girl's haircut, then a personal shopper selected a few dresses and shoes for her to wear, disposing of the tired outfit she had worn when we came in. On our return, I found Rita coiled, waiting for us by the front door. Silently, she gripped the girl's arm and left, and I haven't seen or heard from her since. Not even a letter of resignation. I suppose I overstepped. I get things wrong sometimes. I know that. I gave her daughter a peek into a world she previously didn't know existed, but which was right there the whole time, like Narnia behind the closet. I made Rita feel inferior as a parent, and I made her jealous. That wasn't my intention. I tried to apologize, but she hasn't replied to my messages. I'm sure she is a very fine mother. But who would know? There's no test you need to pass, no license required. Even though you cannot possess a firearm without one or ship an antique to Italy, you must apply to keep a funnel web spider as a pet, to sell tobacco, alcohol, or any kind of gambling product. If you are planning to run a competition or a lottery, drive a vehicle, or even watch TV, you will need one. You will need a license if you work in a salon in one of dozens of American states and wish to, in the course of your profession, shampoo someone else's hair. And yet, no country has ever demanded a license to create a child. China's birth permits were only ever in place to enforce the one-child policy. In North Korea, the state must approve your hairstyle, but you can feel free to procreate no matter who you are. And so, we arrive at this situation where children are trapped with unfit, dangerous parents, and there is very little we can do about it until it is too late. How can people be expected to know that and drift off to sleep and get up in the morning and live in this world? I can't save them all. I would have been happy with only one. I have no real interest in Rita's child, and I was not trying to replace her as a mother. I don't want just any child, only he who belongs to me. When they're rightfully yours, a mother will do anything to have them back. And that's the end of chapter 9. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm excited to see where this journey takes us, and I would love recommendations for our next book. So if you would like to drop a book or two in the comments that you would like to hear me read aloud, that would be perfect.